They said it was a misunderstanding. HR called it a difficult but necessary decision. But when I stepped out of that glass tower, cardboard box in my arms and shame burning behind my eyes, I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup. My name is Hannah Graves, and that was the day I learned the difference between failure and betrayal. One is earned. The other is handed to you, gift-wrapped in someone else's smile. 3 years ago, I was the operations manager at Glenwood & Burke, a rising logistics firm in Denver. I'd been with the company 5 years. Built the inventory forecasting system that won us the Fisher account. Trained half the team. Stayed late. Showed up early. The kind of person you count on. I thought that mattered. Until Jessa Carter joined the team. She had the kind of charm that didn't need to be earned. Ivy League graduate. Polished, poised, sharp as glass. She wore confidence like perfume. People noticed when she entered a room, and they listened when she whispered. At first, I liked her. I trained her myself. Taught her the ins and outs of the supply chain model, helped her settle in, even covered for her when she missed deadlines. I thought we were friends. Looking back, I see the cracks I ignored. The way she always asked questions she already knew the answer to, but only when someone was watching. The way she accidentally CC'd the wrong people on sensitive emails. The compliments that came with a sting. You're so good at this, Hannah. I mean, for someone without a fancy degree. I laughed them off. Smiled. Stayed professional. Until the day everything fell apart. It started with a spreadsheet. A quarterly report that went out to the executive team with a glaring error, off by hundreds of thousands in projected revenue. A rookie mistake. But it had my name on it. I stared at the email in shock. I hadn't sent it. I always double-checked. Triple-checked. And yet, there it was, my signature, my timestamp. I called IT. Asked if my login had been used remotely. They said no. No suspicious activity. I asked Jessa if she'd seen the file. She blinked, eyes wide. Oh, I thought you'd already fixed it. I didn't want to step on your toes. Then came the meeting. The long, polished table. The cold air. My supervisor's tight voice. The head of HR. Face unreadable. Hannah, we have concerns about your recent performance. This error cost us credibility with the board. It's not the first incident. What other incident? I asked, voice cracking. A printed thread of Slack messages was placed in front of me. My name. My avatar. A series of messages implying that I'd taken credit for Jess's work. I read them, breath frozen. I never sent these. But I couldn't prove it. Jessa sat in the corner of the room, arms folded, eyes glistening with just the right amount of sorrow. I didn't want to say anything, she whispered. But it's been hard working under someone who doesn't support me. Support her? I gave her everything. Still, they let me go. No warning. No severance. Just an empty box, my badge deactivated, and a cool voice that said, "You're free to reapply in 12 months. I walked past the desk I used to own. Past the team I helped build. No one met my eyes. Jessa stood at the printer, sipping from a mug I once brought her as a gift. Her lips curled into something that might have been a smile. I didn't cry until I got to the car. Then I screamed. Not because I'd lost my job. Because I'd been erased. For the first 2 weeks, I didn't get out of bed. I ignored calls from my sister, my best friend, even my landlord. I ate cereal dry from the box and watched the shadows crawl across the walls. I kept replaying it. Every word, every meeting, every warning sign I missed. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was personal. I'd let her in. I'd called her a friend. And she'd watch me burn while holding the match. Eventually, I filed for unemployment. Started therapy. I took on freelance inventory consulting jobs for small retailers. One job led to another. Word of mouth spread. I built a client list. Built savings. Got my own LLC. Slowly, the fog lifted. One night, almost a year later, I was sitting at a cafe, updating spreadsheets for a local co-op, when a woman in a navy pantsuit approached my table. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Hannah Graves?" I looked up, wary. "Who's asking?" "I'm Dana Liu," she said, handing me a card. "We're assembling a new team at Redwood Holdings. Your name came up twice in 1 week." I flipped the card over. "What's the role?" She smiled. "Senior Director of Operations. We're restructuring. A lot of former Glenwood people are joining." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh," she said, smirking. "Don't worry. Not her. She burned her bridges with us a while ago." My chest tightened. "You know about what happened?" She nodded. "We do. And we don't care. We've read your files, Hannah. The real ones." I took the job. But I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I wanted the ink dry first. 6 months later, after building new systems and leading one of the smoothest fiscal transitions the company had seen, Dana called me into her office. "We need a department head for the new Denver branch," she said. "It's yours if you want it." I hesitated. "Same building Glenwood used to lease," she added, sipping her coffee. I smiled, slow and cold. "I'll take it." The office looked familiar. The floor plan hadn't changed much. Same windows. Same elevators. Same blue-gray carpet. Even the coffee machine still hissed the same way. I walked through the lobby, new badge clipped to my jacket, new team following behind. And then I saw her, Jessa Carter, clipboard in hand, standing near the receptionist's desk, barking at someone about toner. She turned. Our eyes met. She went pale. The clipboard slipped. I stepped forward. She opened her mouth. "Ashana?" I smiled. "Good morning," I said, voice calm. "I didn't know. I mean, you're..." I held up a hand. "I'd like to speak to you," I said. "In my office." She blinked. "You're?" I nodded. "Department head," I said. "Didn't you hear?" She didn't move. So I walked past her. 3 years ago, she handed me a box. Now I was about to hand her something heavier. Accountability. Her heels clicked behind me like slow applause as we walked through the hallway. Same floor tiles. Same vague corporate art. But now the plaques bore my name. Hannah Graves, Department Head, Operations and Expansion. I kept my voice neutral, professional. "There's a seat in the corner if you'd like." Jessa didn't sit. She hovered near the wall, her arms folded. Her eyes darted to the nameplate on my desk, then to the window behind me, the same one I'd stared out of years ago while security disabled my keycard. "I didn't know you were here," she said quietly. "That much was obvious," I said, opening my laptop. "You're temping?" Her chin lifted, but only slightly. "Contract. Admin support." I nodded. "Who placed you?" "East River Staffing." I made a note on the pad beside me. "Do they know about the Glenwood incident?" Jessa bristled. "That was a misunderstanding?" I finished. She looked at me carefully now. "Look, Hannah. I never meant for you to get fired." I closed the laptop slowly. "You doctored Slack logs, Jessa. You logged into my terminal after hours. IT found the activities 6 months later, but by then, HR had already shredded the records." She didn't deny it. Instead, she sighed and sat down after all, her posture deflating. "Do you think I meant to ruin your life?" she asked, and for a moment I almost saw something human. "Almost." "No," I said. "I think you just didn't care whether it ruined me or not. That's worse." The silence in the room stretched like wire between us. Jessa's voice softened. "How'd you get back here?" I almost smiled. "I didn't get back." I moved forward. Her eyes narrowed. "Did you come here because of me?" "No," I said honestly. "But I won't pretend seeing you answer phones now doesn't feel poetic." She flinched. I let her. Then I stood. "This isn't a revenge conversation, Jessa. This is a professional one. Your contract ends in 10 days. You'll finish it out with grace, or I'll have you removed by security. Your choice." She stood too, eyes flashing. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said, walking to the door. "But I'm not afraid anymore. And I think that scares you more than anything." As she left, the door clicked softly behind her. I exhaled long and low, because for all the strength I'd found, this part still shook me. Closure wasn't clean. It was messy, uncomfortable, and quiet, but it had finally begun. That night, I walked home under a pink Denver sky, the air sharp and sweet from spring. When I reached my apartment, there was a small envelope taped to the door. No return address. Inside was a printed photo, a screenshot of me, the day I'd been fired, red-eyed, box in hand, shoulders hunched. On the back were the words, "Nice office. Shame if someone brought up your past." I stood in the hallway, blood draining from my face. Not Jessa. She wouldn't be this obvious. And she wouldn't threaten from behind the curtain. She liked the spotlight too much. This was someone else. Someone who remembered the video. Because that's what I'd forgotten. Someone at Glenwood had filmed me leaving that day. The walk of shame. The broken look. It had gone semi-viral on corporate gossip forums. Boss babe gets bounced after screwing up budget. Another one bites the corporate dust. I'd buried that memory deep. Now it had been exhumed. I slid the envelope into my purse and locked the door behind me. Later that night, I called Dana, my current boss. "You ever hear of someone named Colin Krantz?" I asked. There was a pause. "Yeah. He applied to our project team." I passed. "Why?" "He was messy at Glenwood. Used to run gossip channels online. Thought he was untouchable because of some exec buddy." My throat tightened. "Do we have his file?" "I can send it to you in the morning." "You okay?" I hesitated. "Yeah, I lied." But I wasn't. Because I remembered Colin. He'd always lingered near the break room. Heard everything. Recorded things. Gossiped in Slack. Jessa had once called him our little spy. And now he was lurking again. The next day, another envelope arrived. This time it was slid under my office door. A USB stick. And a note. "You're not the only one who knows how to plant evidence. Let's see how you like watching your world burn." I stared at the note, hands trembling slightly. I plugged in the USB at home, never at work. Inside were edited screenshots, Slack messages with my name, fake receipts of fake bonuses, even a mock invoice suggesting I'd build the company under a false vendor name. All fabricated, but made to look real. It was exactly the same strategy Jessa had used. Only this time, it was dirtier, sloppier, meaner. Someone wanted to take me down. Again. Only this time I was ready. I spent the next 3 days compiling everything. Timestamps, metadata, CCTV pulls from building security, emails to HR. I met with Dana, with IT, with legal. We traced the IP address from the fake screenshots to a local WeWork. Dana put surveillance on the entrance. And on Thursday morning, just before 9, he walked in. Colin Krantz, wearing a smug grin and carrying a laptop plastered in outdated stickers. We met him outside. Legal served him on the spot. Digital defamation, attempted fraud, harassment. His smile crumbled. Dana folded her arms. "You messed with the wrong story." I stepped forward. 3 years ago, someone lied and got me fired. This time, I told the truth before the lie could breathe. He didn't speak. Security escorted him out. But not everyone clapped. Because Jessa still worked there, even if temporarily. And people talk. Rumors spin. Some started asking, did Hannah really get set up back then? Others whispered, why is she so quick to strike now? That's the thing about cleaning up after your own character assassination. Even when you win, you don't walk away spotless. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Because Jessa had stayed quiet during all this. Too quiet. And Jessa never stayed quiet unless she was planning her next move. 3 weeks passed. Colin vanished. The investigation against him was underway. IT purged his access. Legal sent cease and desist notices to the forum where he'd posted the screenshots. It should have felt like closure. But the air in the office had changed. People looked up when I walked into rooms. Conversations stopped when I passed by. My inbox filled with vague check-ins. Hope you're holding up. Let me know if you need anything. So sorry you're dealing with all this. No one said it outright, but I saw it in their eyes. Doubt. Because it doesn't matter how clean the truth is. Once a whisper's been planted, it grows roots fast. And Jessa? She was still there. Quiet. Careful. Unbothered. Finishing out her contract like a model employee. Always smiling. Always helpful. Too helpful. She brought muffins to meetings. Complimented my shoes in the hallway. Laughed at people's jokes a second too late, like she was studying the timing. One afternoon, I found her in the break room, arranging a bouquet of cheap daisies in a chipped glass. Spring, she said brightly. It always makes me want to start over. I nodded without smiling. You've had practice. Her fingers paused in the vase. You think I had something to do with Colin? I think you're smart enough not to leave fingerprints, I said calmly. She sighed, like I was exhausting her. You know, Hannah, not everything's about you. Then why are you still here? I asked. She blinked. You could have quit. Moved on. Found another firm. Her voice lowered. Maybe I like watching you squirm. There it was. The mask slipped, for just a second. I stepped closer. I don't squirm, Jessa, I said. I study. I wait. I remember. She looked at me like she wanted to say more. But she didn't. She just turned and left, the scent of daisies trailing behind her. That weekend, I drove to Littleton to visit an old friend, Maxine Holt, former HR coordinator at Glenwood. She'd left the company the month after I was fired. Rumors said she disagreed with the decision, but no one ever confirmed it. When I knocked on her apartment door, she opened it with cautious eyes. Hannah. I nodded. I need to talk. We sat at her kitchen table, drinking chamomile tea with too much honey. I told her everything. Jess's rise, the sabotage, the Slack edits, the envelopes, Colin's threats. Maxine didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I was done, she opened a small box from her drawer. Inside was a flash drive. I wasn't supposed to keep this, she said. But something about that day never sat right with me. So I backed up the internal logs. My hands trembled as I took it. It's all there, she said. The file edits. The remote logins. The Slack API inconsistencies. Why didn't you come forward before? I asked. She looked tired. Because I was afraid. And because no one asked. I drove home in silence, the flash drive warm in my palm like a stone pulled from fire. That night, I made a copy. One went into the company's server. The other went into a letter addressed to Jessa's new employer. Because what she didn't know, she'd already accepted a job offer at Clearwater Systems, a Redwoods partner company. And I was on their board. The following Monday, I walked into the office just after 8. My team was already gathering for the department meeting. Jessa stood at the coffee machine, clipboard in hand, making a show of productivity. I walked up to her slowly. How's Clearwater looking? I asked. Her smile slipped. What? Your onboarding starts in 2 weeks, right? I said. Remote position. Full benefits. Nice upgrade. Her throat moved as she swallowed. How did you? I'm on the board, I said. I approved the expansion team. They don't know about Glenwood yet, but they will. She went still. I leaned closer. And this time, Jessa, I have proof. Not hearsay. Not screenshots. Logs. Timestamps. IPs. your fingerprints all over the keys. For once, she had no words. I looked down at the daisies she'd placed on the counter. They die fast, I said, especially when you cut them before they've rooted. She didn't come to the department meeting. Later, I found out she'd packed up early, left before noon.
No goodbye, no muffins.
Just an empty desk. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, a letter arrived at my apartment. Handwritten. No return address. You're not innocent either. People just see what they want to see. Ask yourself, how did your little friend Maxine get access to all that data in the first place? Inside the envelope was a photocopy of an email. From me. Or at least it looked like me. Dated the day before I was fired. Asking Maxine to keep a copy of the logs just in case things go bad. It was subtle, just believable enough to raise questions. I called Maxine immediately. Did I ever send you that? No, she said firmly. I'd remember. I believed her, but it didn't matter. The doubt was the weapon now. Someone was still playing, still pulling strings, and I was running out of trust to spend. That Friday, I got a call from Dana. We need to talk, she said, voice clipped. Something's come up. In her office, the lights felt too bright. I got a call from Clearwater, she said. They received an anonymous tip about you falsifying records with a former HR lead.
Is zegt her.
Are you seriously asking if I did that? She sighed. I'm not, but the board is. My breath slowed. It's happening again, I whispered. Dana's voice softened. I'm putting it to bed. You're not being removed, but I need you to lay low. For now. I nodded, but inside, I was already done laying low. Because someone wanted to erase me. Again. And I'd spent 3 years rebuilding my life brick by brick. This time, I wouldn't let them touch a single stone. They underestimated me. Again. But I'd learned something in those 3 years of rebuilding, sleepless consulting nights, and long, bruised hours in therapy. Fear shrinks in the light. And I was done operating in the dark. So I lit everything up. The following Monday, I arrived at work early. Earlier than I had in months. I wore the navy suit that made me feel like a wall no one could knock over. My hair was tight. My shoes clicked. I didn't walk into Dana's office. I walked into the boardroom. 2 board members were already there. CFO. Legal advisor. Both looked up with surprise. I'd like to make a statement, I said. And I'd like it to go on the record. They exchanged glances. I didn't wait for permission. I handed over the envelope I'd prepared. 3 flash drives, notarized chain of custody, IT department sign-off, time-stamped backup evidence. These are the original Glenwood logs, I said. Unedited. Verified. They prove I was framed. They also prove who did it. The legal advisor flipped through the printouts, brow furrowed. And these, I continued, pulling a second folder from my bag, are the emails Jessica Carter sent from a shadow account, traced to her IP, targeting my current position and attempting to discredit me. I dropped one final document. This is the fabricated email she sent to Clearwater, claiming I asked Maxine Holt to falsify company records. It took me 2 phone calls to prove it was forged. I paused. Let the silence stretch. I am not asking for protection, I said. I'm demanding resolution. The CFO nodded slowly. We'll bring it to the board. No, I said. Bring it to the partners. I've already blind copied them. They didn't see that coming. For once, I was the one ahead of the curve. By Thursday, the fallout had begun. Jessica Carter was placed on an industry-wide watch list. Clearwater rescinded their offer. The temp agency dropped her. But the biggest shock, the account she used to send the fabricated tip about me had been funded by Colin Krantz. An investigation confirmed it. She'd wired him a small sum through a dummy LLC. She had hired him to sabotage me.
Twice.
He was facing charges. She was facing silence. That was always the thing with Jessa. She thought the danger was in the explosion. But I'd learned it was in the silence after. That's when truth rises. The following week, Dana called me in. "We owe you more than an apology," she said, voice tight with something like regret. "You could have gone public with this." "I still might," I said softly. "But not for revenge. For record." She looked at me, unreadable. "What do you want, Hannah?" I didn't pause. "I want my name restored. I want an internal memo sent company-wide, outlining what happened and clearing my record. Not vague. Full detail." She nodded. "Done." I stood. "And one more thing," I said. "I want an initiative." Dana raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" "A mentorship program. For women who've been discredited in tech or operations. I want us to back it. Fund it. Own it."
Dana smiled.
Now that's a legacy. I walked out with something more than vindication. Direction. 2 months later, the letter came. No return address. Same scrawl. Same paper stock. "You didn't win because you were good. You won because I was careless. But just know, they'll turn on you again. They always do." I smiled faintly. It wasn't signed.
Didn't need to be.
Jessa still didn't understand. It was never about winning. It was about not disappearing. It was about being louder than the lie. In July, the Clear Frame initiative launched. 5 ments. 3 partners. Dozens of applications. One woman, Tanya, cried during orientation. "I thought I was the only one who'd been erased," she said. "Until I found your story." I handed her a folder. "Now you're part of the next one." And Jessa? Last I heard, she was consulting freelance under a different name. A ghost in the system. Funny how that works. 3 years ago, she watched me walk out with the box.
Now?
She doesn't even have a name that belongs to her. One autumn afternoon, I received a calendar invite for a partner strategy meeting. I opened the agenda and stopped cold. Meeting room, 6B. Glenwood Conference Hall. They'd repurposed the name. I walked in slow. The room was sleek. Quiet. And waiting. I placed my bag on the table. Looked around. There were no ghosts here. Just sunlight. And a chair at the head of the table, with my nameplate already resting there.
Hannah Graves.
Department head. Partner candidate. I sat down. Because I belonged there. Because someone once said I didn't.
And now?
Now they were just one file on a shelf I no longer had to carry. Weeks later, during a quiet Friday lunch, one of the junior staffers lingered behind. She was maybe 24. Fresh out of grad school. Nervous, but sharp. She cleared her throat. "Ms. Graves? Can I ask you something?" I nodded. "Of course." "When you walked back into the company after what happened, weren't you scared?" I smiled gently. "I was terrified." She frowned. "Then how did you still do it?" I leaned forward. "Because fear is temporary. But losing your voice? That lasts longer. I'd already lost it once." She nodded slowly. Then she asked, "So, are you over it now?" I thought about it. About the box. The walk.
The shame.
The silence. The sting. Then about the office. The ments. The light through the glass. "No," I said. "But I'm above it now." She smiled. I did too. And the clock moved forward like it always does.